They froze my account because of their mistake. And for over a month, I couldn't access a single dollar of my own money. No bills, no groceries, no peace. But when polite calls and emails failed, I decided to give my bank a lesson in public relations, the kind that spreads faster than compound interest. For reasons I still can't fully explain, I thought trusting a small local credit union would mean better service. They knew your name, smiled when you walked in, the kind of place that makes you feel like you're not just another account number. That illusion lasted right up until my card stopped working. It started on a random Thursday afternoon. I was at an ATM, trying to withdraw cash for lunch. Transaction declined. Strange. I checked my balance on the app, plenty of money sitting there. So I walked into the branch, explained it to a clerk, and she told me something about a minor system issue. She even gave me a temporary withdrawal code, a feature that lets customers access funds directly from their balance if the card malfunctions. Problem solved, or so I thought. A few days later, I noticed something odd. My account was marked for review. Apparently, the bank system was slow in deducting one of the earlier withdrawals, and instead of fixing it internally, they flagged my account for irregular activity. No overdraft, no fraud, just an error they caused. And yet, my funds were locked, completely inaccessible. At first, I thought it would clear up in a day or two. But then a week passed, then 2. And each time I called support, I got the same robotic tone and fake apologies. One rep even hinted that my foreign-sounding last name might have triggered a security check. That's when my patience began to evaporate. By week 4, I was done being polite. I'd tried logic, kindness, persistence, and all I got were condescending smirks over the phone. They thought I was powerless, that I'd eventually give up and wait. But they didn't realize something crucial. I may not have access to my money, but I did have access to the internet. So, I called my cousin back home. He's one of those tech-savvy people who knows how to find unconventional solutions. I vented about what happened, and that's when he gave me the idea. A website, Russian of all places, where you can pay people, just a few rubles, to post whatever you want across social media. Facebook, Twitter, Yelp, Reddit, you name it. They even let you choose the nationality of the fake accounts. American, British, local, all with profile pictures, histories, and believable comments. At first, I laughed. It sounded insane. But the more I thought about it, the more poetic it felt. They used bureaucracy to silence me. I would use their own customers' feeds to make them listen. The plan was simple. $3 worth of Russian rubles, a few AI-written posts, and a flood of bad publicity that would bury their reputation in minutes. I almost smiled when I hit send. $3, a few lines of text, a handoff to faceless accounts sitting behind thousands of miles of code. It felt petty. It felt perfect. I gave them the short brief. Explain how the credit union had frozen my account for over a month due to their internal error. Say the support was rude and discriminatory. Request urgent action. I asked them to post it across every platform the service offered. Facebook comments, Twitter replies, local business pages, even the union's own Instagram. I asked for believable language, minor variations, and a sprinkle of outrage. Human-sounding, but loud. Then I waited. At first, nothing. The kind of silence that screams. Then the trickle started. 1 comment. 2. 10. Within an hour, their latest Facebook post had replies stacked like a paper jam. People complaining about frozen funds. People calling out the same review excuse. One user mentioned a clerk who gave them a temporary code that didn't work. Another accused a racial bias in how cases were prioritized. The posts were small, believable, messy, the way real anger looks online. But they multiplied. The service I'd paid fed them steadily, timing releases so it looked organic. By the evening, the union's social media felt like a public square on fire. Notifications were exploding. Customers were tagging friends. Local forum threads popped up. People took screenshots. People shared them. Faith in that friendly little branch eroding fast. I wasn't watching only for spectacle. I was watching for movement, the thing that signals a company finally notices the burn. And then it happened. My phone rang with a private number I didn't recognize. The voice on the other end was formal, practiced, the polite kind that answers a crisis for a living. It was the call center manager. She spoke like someone who'd spent years putting out fires with apology templates and pre-approved refunds. She spoke immediately. "Sir, we understand your frustration. We can transfer your full balance to another bank and add a $50 goodwill credit. You don't have to be a customer if you don't want to be." I listened to her offer and let it roll over me. Professional calm, procedural remorse. She gave the standard, "We're investigating the glitch" line, then asked if I'd like her to proceed. What she didn't know was that $50 wasn't the point. Visibility was the point. Validation was the point. The point was that the PR team finally cared enough to pick up the phone. I accepted the transfer. On the call, she repeated the compensation, the steps, the timelines. She apologized. She promised better. She sounded sincere. Probably the most sincere representative they had left after a day of being pelted online. When I hung up, I didn't feel victorious at first. I felt something quieter, a weight lifting, like a knot finally loosening. But then, watching the reply thread on their Facebook, I noticed a pattern. Their message was plastered across comments and shared as proof that complaints worked. People were already tagging others, telling the same story. The bank's brand, once a trust signal in a small community, had been rent. I didn't celebrate with champagne. I went to bed with the phone buzzing against my nightstand, alerts that sounded like justice. In the morning, the branch posted a carefully worded apology. Local news picked up the thread, not because I was famous, but because 1,000 small voices had created a chorus too loud to ignore. And while the Russian accounts faded into the digital ether, the damage remained. Permanent impressions, screenshots, and a manager who now had to answer to someone senior about a PR failure. It wasn't brutality. It was leverage. $3 bought me more than a refund. It bought me attention. And sometimes attention is the kind of currency bureaucracies respect most. The next morning, my balance was there. Every cent, plus 50 more. The bank's small price for silence. But silence wasn't what they bought. They bought awareness. They bought the right to walk away without their name trending any higher than it already had. I stared at the numbers on the screen for a long time. It looked the same as before, just digits on a page. But it felt different. Because behind those numbers now sat an entire chain of cause and consequence. One mistake, 1 month of arrogance, one man who decided he wasn't going to wait quietly anymore. By noon, their apology post had comments disabled. The earlier flood of out somewhere inside that tidy branch office, a meeting room smelled of coffee and panic as executives used words like damage control and sentiment analysis. I didn't feel guilty. Not because I thought I was the hero, I wasn't, but because for once, the scale balanced. They froze me out for a clerical error and mocked my name when I begged for access to my own funds. Now, they'd learned that one locked account could open 1,000 mouths. It's strange how quickly power shifts. A month ago, I was waiting on hold, counting seconds between scripted apologies. Today, a manager had to personally reassure me that I'd been heard. Maybe that's the real revenge. Not destruction, but inversion. When the ignored becomes the priority, when the powerless forces the powerful to explain themselves. I kept thinking about those fake posts. They weren't mine to erase anymore. They lived their own digital afterlife, buried in timelines, quoted by strangers, maybe even used in some future business lecture about crisis management. I'd unleashed something small that became larger than intent. There was no undo button, no recall, only the quiet satisfaction of knowing I'd played the system that tried to play me. Later that week, an automated email arrived from the credit union. A survey. Please rate your recent experience with us. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. I clicked 5 stars because technically they did solve my problem faster than I expected. People say revenge doesn't change anything, that it leaves you bitter, still chained to the anger that started it. But I disagree. Sometimes revenge is a reset, a reboot of the equation between you and the world. It reminds you that systems only function when you consent to play by their rules. And once you realize you can rewrite those rules, even briefly, you stop feeling small. So no, I didn't ruin the bank. I just reminded them that even a single customer can carry a louder megaphone than their marketing team, and that respect costs less than recovery campaigns. Maybe someday they'll clean up their social feeds, replace the broken trust with rebranded slogans, but every time they post, someone somewhere will remember the day the bots came, the day a locked account turned into a lesson, the day a whisper became a storm. And that's how $3 bought me my freedom and a little bit of revenge interest. Some people call it petty, others call it overkill, but I call it balance. Because when a system built on control meets someone with nothing left to lose, that's when power shifts. That's when justice stops asking for permission. This wasn't about money. It was about respect. And the reminder that silence can scream louder than outrage when aimed right. If you've ever been wronged, cheated, or brushed aside like you didn't matter, remember, revenge doesn't always come with fire or fury. Sometimes it comes with precision. Sometimes it costs just $3. This is Revenge Rewind, where karma isn't random, it's earned. If this story hit a nerve, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and join us as we rewind justice, one story at a time. Because here, justice delayed is never justice denied.